All right. Hi, everybody. It's Sarah Donovan here, and we have another author talk, Just YA, with Joe Bisicchia. And I have worked on another anthology with Joe, but this isn't our first time meeting, so I'm really happy to have you with us. And in these author talks, everyone, we're just trying to bring a face and a voice to these incredible collection of poems and short stories and creative nonfiction pieces that authors have contributed out of the generosity of their um, of their hearts and minds to contribute this for teachers and students. So we're really happy to have you with us, Joe. And do you mind just introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about you?
Oh, Sarah, it's a great honor to be here with you. You talked about our generosity. Big thank you to you for putting everything together. I always say it's great to be able to write poetry and encourage all young folks, especially to write poetry. But it's seeing what you have done to bring it together and you've given it life. So thank you for that. I enjoy writing poetry. I've been out there being published, which is wonderful. I'm blessed. Also continue to keep writing. Right now currently on the track for an MFA, even though I'm 60 years old. Right now going to Lindenwood University out of Missouri. So I'm on my way to an MFA. I hope I'll get there. I have been blessed with 4 collections. The first one was Wide Wide World, Wide Wide Dot World to Unwind. And these are all works that have come from my heart that I try to kind of put together in categories. December 26th to Christmas was a feeling of, hey, you know what, the manifestation of great things year round as we get ready for the holiday. Love to Love was a collection that meant a lot to me because love is such an important word, and the manifestation of what love is also a verb, and in so many ways, it's what God is all about. So that book meant much to me. And then For You to Heal, this gives me a little bit of a dovetail because I could say, hey, in my real job right now, I am a director of public affairs at a health system in New Jersey, the largest health system in southern New Jersey. It's called Virtua Health. So I work much with community there, and it's a blessing to do that. So that's me. I've also have a past history of being a broadcast journalist, also a school teacher, and just a regular guy. I'm just a regular Joe, and I live in Marlton, New Jersey, which is a suburb of Philadelphia. So I grew up a Phillies and Eagles fan, and with all those frustrations too. Would love to read you some works.
Yes, I want to hear one more question before you read. Uh,
Okay, go ahead.
how did you get involved with this project?
Oh, how did I get involved with this? You know what? It was just that I'll say it was serendipity and fate. I learned about it, and there's something to be said about when you write poetry that you got to take that leap of faith and submit, and also be ready for rejections. And Sarah, I had learned about it and I submitted. I leave a lot in fate and in God's hands to see what would happen. And uh, it happened that these fit into the messaging of what you collected. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. And I don't know how our paths crossed originally with the rhyme and rhythm poems for student athletes that we created together, which was a really important thing, like right coming on the tails of COVID, and all of the, our I was really missing my volleyball, missing my teammates and the people that I got to spend time with. And to be isolated, I was just looking for poems that could reflect some of the joy and also just the things that I loved about sports and coming together. I don't know how we crossed paths, but you had some beautiful poems in that book too. So I'm glad that writers do need to do that. They need to take a leap of faith and submit, and hopefully our poems find a home. And it has found a home in Just YA. So yes, I would love for you to read for us.
Well, I should mention that I mentioned I was a broadcast journalist in the past, TV. A lot of that was politics and news, but a big part of me was sports.
Mm.
I was a sportscaster for a while. So yes, you nailed it with that work. It's such an honor to be part of that. So you know what? That's a perfect dovetail to this particular poem that is entitled Envision. I'll read you 2 short poems. The first one will be Envision. And I mentioned it's a dovetail from sports because you know it, playing volleyball or whatever it is you play can play wiffle ball. and you envision, man, I hope this batter hits the ball right here and I'm going to go over here and get, it's envisioning of what can happen. And then it happens. And then you realize there's so much to this about life, how you should envision things. It's good to dream. It's not folly. At least you should never make your dreams folly. You should have a sense of envisioning something and then going and to make it happen. So this poem is entitled Envision. Envision. Anticipate what reality can bring and what a being can bring to reality. Let inner eyes visualize. Allow the mind to ride. Sense the outfield fence and the leap above it. Dream it, want it, and make that catch inside the mind. Destiny waits to take place. Envision, so to imagine what can be, so to give life the very opportunity, and then do your best to again make that catch.
What
So that's it.
What strikes you as you reread that?
I just keep flashing back to when I was a kid playing wiffle ball,
Yeah.
And how fun that was. And when I coach soccer for kids, little young guys, I'm a father of 4 boys, and they're now grown. And how I would always say, envision that ball coming to you here. What are you going to do next? What are you going to do when it's there? You know what? It's imperative that you envision scoring that goal because you're going to get that opportunity. And I'm going to say it's important to do that with everything. Envision love. Envision the job you're going to do. Envision the task, the goal. Do it in your dreams and then do it in reality. Yeah. It's amazing how things can happen if you get and make yourself ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I agree with everything that you're saying. And I think it's, when we offer this book to, middle and high schoolers and the poems to think there's a literal read that you can make with this, right? There's a literal physical catching. There's a specific place here with the fence and there is a figurative reading of it as well. It's a beautiful extended metaphor. Teachers are always saying like, what's a good poem for extended metaphor? And it is like we do want to, as English teachers, we want to offer students things that we can teach them how to name like what the poet or what the author is doing with their craft here. But why? Like, why is this the apt metaphor for it? And how can we extend this to the different places of our lives? And I think this idea of like, if you can dream it, if you can envision it, you'll know when you get it. You'll know when it arrives because you've seen it. And I think yeah.
You're so right. A teacher is all about teaching a student to envision. And it's not just about envisioning what they can be. It's also envisioning maybe what others see. It's about envisioning, okay, what was Julius Caesar thinking about? What was happening there? Put myself in those thoughts. You're teaching students to bring life alive. So kudos to all that you're doing with that teaching.
I love it. Okay, you have another poem for us.
Okay, this one, the spiritual angle, so important in terms of what we are and become. There's something about envisioning here too, but there's also something about letting go, something about asking to be an instrument. There's so much that we all can be. Sometimes when we envision, we think, okay, I can do anything. There's good to that, but you know what? You may be setting yourself up for a fault because it's not totally true. You let yourself go that with faith and the love of God and the ability to let go, to be that instrument, essentially through prayer, through faith. That's when things happen. So this poem is entitled Fill Me, Fill Me, Fill Me. I don't want to be empty. Don't want to be lost. I want to be yours. And so for the long march, Lord, make me your shoe. Make me that way worn, that way creased, that way used. My skin may wrinkle, leather may turn like leaves, but with you, I am an indestructible spring. And all along, not a torn soul at all, but one forever new. Fill me, bring me to being, and let us march through the dust, the mud, the broken glass, the glitter, the morning dew. So that's Fill Me. Did that one speak to you at all, Sarah?
Yeah. I think, hearing you read it, I see, and just hearing a little bit, like getting to know you a little bit more. Um, I read it as spiritual for sure, and I think just that first line, I don't want to be empty, like that, makes me almost lose my breath just to think about that. We're searching for fulfillment, we're searching to be satiated, to be filled up, and to not always be wanting, that we have enough or that we want to be filled, and I think sometimes we wonder if anything is going to fill us up. So I think that there's also that, and then there's also for me as a just sometimes I feel like I don't want to be empty, like we have nothing left to give people also. That I haven't filled it back up again to be there for other people. And so, different lines resonate with me depending on, when I read it or how I read it or how I hear you reading it. And then the second lens to that is, as a collection, I'm thinking about something that's going to go into, students' hands and teachers' hands and things like that. Sometimes people can be afraid of having any sort of spirituality in the poems that we read in class or that we share with students. But I think that's why it's also so great about an anthology is that students can find something that speaks to them and read that. And especially now being in Oklahoma, which is different than when I was in Chicago, like Christianity, the church, it's really at the heart of a lot of my students here. They talk very openly about that when they introduce themselves to each other. It's one of the first things they say, is about their relationship with God. And it's not something that we talked about very much when I was in Chicago as a teacher. It didn't come up in quite the same way, depending on where you are in the country. And so all of those things resonate with me thinking about how the poem lives in different places geographically and how it might resonate with different people in different spaces. And so it's another reason that we want to have a collection of work from a variety of people when we think about what we share with our students.
Well, Sarah, you've said so many beautiful things there, especially in the world of poetry. I'll put that out there first. Every poet would love to be able to say, hey, we want to be able to write a poem that can be read different times and then you hear different things. And that is really special when a poem can do that. And in the particular case with this, as you're going through it, about being a torn soul, but you're not a torn soul. You're empty, but you're not empty. I'm glad you mentioned that. But the spirituality part of it is indeed the whole gist of it. Why deprive yourself of the ability to be not empty? To be able to give and be an instrument. That's what we're all called to be. It's if we can inspire that of each other, wow. And I'm glad you had me read those two poems because when I talk about the sense of envisioning, I said, you know what? Yes, you can envision you're the boss, the king of the world, but no, there's another dynamic, and that is let it be. Let it be what I am meant to be in that instrument. And you know what happens? You are indeed scoring the goal. It's an amazing dynamic how life is when you do that. So, a great honor to be able to have a poem like these two poems, but particularly this second one. Thank you for enabling it to come to life.
Well, I'm so grateful for them, and I'm grateful that our paths crossed in this way and that we finally get to meet each other in person. So as we sort of close, I wonder, you talked a little bit about in the MFA program that you're in. What are you working on right now with your writing? You have these four great books, you have the poems in Just YA, you have a full-time job. Like, what's going on?
I have a, well, we can go on and on and on about writing. I write many different works, so I have a lot of collections going. And frankly, it's not like I necessarily step back and say, okay, what am I going to write on? It kind of like comes to me, whatever, whatever's meant to be. I'm open to it. I'll put it that way. Okay, so it's like that. But because I am an MFA, what I have done with that, Sarah, is I have said, you know what, I'm going to put a little bit of another restriction on my writing. For this whole journey of the MFA, I'm going to try to have poetry that's about physicians. So, and all my fellow classmates know this about me because all of my poems in the class are about physicians, particularly burnout, and the wonder of the profession, the ability of physicians to be able to see what they have and what they're doing and how to get recharged. So my goal at the end of that MFA journey, if I am fortunate and blessed to survive it, will be that I will have another collection coming down the pike on that. Having said that, there are plenty other collections that are also in the hopper. One on sports, for example, one on elephants. I have a whole two collections on insects.
Mhm.
I just love to be able to be open to things. You know why? It's all out there. The wonders of our world speak to us. How can you not be fascinated by watching ants at work? So poetry gives you an opportunity to do something about that within yourself. So I'm very grateful for poetry and for the angle that I get from it that I often feel like personally, and it's, I feel like God's working and talking to me and showing me things, and I'm trying to understand it, which is a wonderful gift. I'm really blessed about that.
Well, we are so grateful for you, Joe, and we're going to just kind of close out our conversation here. So all the links that you need to read Joe's poems in Just YA and then links to his website to learn more about his work are going to be there. And thank you so much for being with us, Joe.
Thank you so much, Sarah, very much to all the beautiful people that you're working around and being enlightened by all this wonderful poetry. Can't wait to see it all.